I know it's been a while since I pushed out a video, but I'm back now, so definitely going to start working on some more weekly videos. But this video will be covering some more advanced htaccess things that we didn't go over in our previous htaccess video that y'all like. So if you're interested in any kind of security measures or speed optimizations through htaccess, stay tuned and keep on watching. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we're going to be going over some more htaccess stuff. Y'all really liked the video that I did last time, so I'm going to kind of take what I did last time and include some of the other things on there that you might need to know about, like blacklisting domains or IP addresses, how you can block certain referrers, how you can try to block agent names in order to prevent bots from hitting your website, as well as how you can try to cover a lot of, I guess, like optimizations and stuff like that that you can do that I didn't go over in the first tutorial for htaccess. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in it. First thing I have is this little site right here. Currently it doesn't have anything in it, so I'm going to just add something here. So let's do homepage, just so we can kind of see where we're going. And then I'm going to come over to Chrome and let's refresh this. So now we're in our homepage. So this is using WAMP again. Just so you know, there's going to be some things in htaccess I won't be able to get to work, but if you use it on a real live server, you should be able to modify it a little bit to be able to get it to do what you want it to do. First process in doing this is to create a new file called .htaccess, and then inside of this file, this is where it's going to contain most of our stuff. And I have the code window a little bit bigger and the browser window a little bit smaller, just because this is not really something we're going to be really focusing on the browser too much, so most of our stuff's going to go in here. So I guess let's go ahead and get started. So one of the first things you can do to kind of customize your server setup is to set the time zone, and you can do that from the htaccess file as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create something that says set time zone, and the code that you're going to use is going to be your set environment. And then we're just going to do the time zone environment, and I'm just going to do America, Chicago. This is something that you can change on your own. So America, Chicago, you can do New York, Los Angeles, whatever time zone you're in. If you just Google time zones for htaccess, you'll see a list of them of what you can put here. So that's one thing you can do to customize your server, is to set the time zone so that your time and dates and all this other kind of stuff actually is accurate with where you want the code to be at, whether it's directly on your server or where your customer or your clients are located at. So you can set it up so that they can manage that. There's also some other things that some modders might look for, or not modders, but hackers that might look for, that would kind of give them information about your server that you don't necessarily want them to have. So if you hit like a 500 error page on your server, or if you don't have a 404 set up using your htaccess file, it'll display like the server message. Well, that server message contains information. So you can come in here and you can change your server signature to make it where it displays other information outside of just making it change to a different page itself, which I'll get into in just a second. So you can change your server signature by setting the server signature. So let's do server signature. We're going to change the email variable, and we're going to do set environment server admin. And then I'm just going to do sample at example.com. So that way it actually displays an email address that you want things to go to. Or, so I'm going to put a or here. If you want to remove the server signature completely, you would just do something like server signature and then make it turn off. So let's see. Let me go ahead and I don't really need to comment any of that out because that's not really affecting what we're doing locally. Okay, so in the previous tutorial, I showed you how to do your error pages. So I'm just going to reiterate through that again. So we're going to do error pages. And this one's pretty simple. So you're going to do error document 401. Let's do the 404 first, because that's one I can show you locally. So we're going to create a folder called errors, and then let's do 404.html. So inside of this, we're going to create a new folder, call it errors, and then inside of this, we're going to create a new file called 404.html. And I'm just going to put in something here that says page is missing. So now if we refresh this and go to something that we know doesn't exist, it now has our page is missing. Whereas if we comment this out over here, you'll see the not found requested URL was not found on this server. So I'm going to leave this here, and we can also create some other error pages. So I'm going to take my 404, I'm just going to copy it, and let's change this to a 401, just some of the common ones. And then let's change this one to a 500. So we have our 401, our 500. Now we just change the message to reflect this. So we're going to do, instead of page is missing, we're going to say something like, nope, you do not have access to this page. And then for our 500, let's just, because this is a server error, we're just going to do something like, ouch, the server broke. Okay, so now we have these pages created. We just go in there and we add them to our htaccess file. So we're going to do 401 first, and then we're going to do our 500 and here. So I'm not going to demonstrate all of them just because, you know, there's certain situations on my local WAMP server that I can't recreate that you would be able to hit on a regular server. But you can see it does work using the 404 example. There is also some other server errors that you can manage. So I'm going to make a note of those here so that you can view inside of the documentation. So 400 equals bad request. And then we have our 401, which equals authorization required. And I'm just going to list out the normal ones that, you know, most people would see whenever they're building out a website. We got our 403, which is forbidden. The 404, which is not found. Then we get into our 500, and there is some in between. I'm not listing all of them, just listing the ones that I commonly deal with. So we got an internal server error for a 500, and get our 503, which is a service unavailable. So we got a service unavailable, and then finally we have our 504, which is a gateway timeout. And you can create, you know, your own custom pages for each one of these. Servers usually handle these kind of pages, but you know, if you want to have, you know, like custom look to it so that it's not just like this, you know, you can add HTML, CSS styles, whatever you want to make sure that whenever someone hits a 404, you're actually, you know, displaying them in a page that looks good, you know, stuff like that. So, but you can also do it for all of these others as well. Okay, so we also went over a little bit on how to do some simple redirects. So I'm going to come right down here, and now let's go to, scroll down. Let's do some simple redirects. So we're going to do, let's see. So redirects, and let's do the first one is going to be some simple ones. So simple redirects. This is going to be your most common redirects, and we're going to do, I would recommend doing most of your redirects as a 301. So you're going to do a redirect 301. That just gives it the error code of 301 so that, you know, Google knows that it's moved, it's not missing, blah, blah, blah. So whenever you go to do indexation for your SEO, you know, 301s usually work out the best in order to, you know, not lose that SEO that you've previously done for the page that moved. So first thing we're going to do is I want to redirect a folder, and I'm just going to call it sample. And then I'm making sure it's a folder, and I just want to redirect it to this URL that I have, and then we're going to redirect it to sample2 folder. So let's do http and htaccess.local is what I have this server called. And then I'm just going to redirect it to sample2 folder, which means I need to go in here and create a sample2 folder. And then inside of this sample2 folder, I'm just going to throw in a index.html just so it loads something. And then this, we can just have it where it's sample2 homepage. So now if we follow in our rules, if we come over here to /sample, it redirects us to sample2, which is a valid page. So we can also do where, you know, you have one page that redirects to another page. So again, we're going to do redirect 301, and then we're going to do old page.html, and we're just going to have it redirect again to, let me just copy this. So we're going to have it redirect to this, and then we're just going to have it go to something called new page.html. And as you can see, you know, the sample folder doesn't exist. This old page.html is not going to exist either, but the new page will. So it's not necessarily that you need to have these pages available. So once you redirect them, you can remove them, or whatever you need to do, because it reads it at a server level. So it's reading it to redirect before it even lands on the page content itself. So it doesn't know if it exists or not until it gets to it. So once it's redirecting htaccess, it basically does the redirect before anything else. Okay, so we got this new page, so we're just going to do new page here. And then again, if we go over here and we type in, I think it's old page.html, that's going to redirect us to our new page. So simple redirects. Let's get rid of that. And now let's do another one where if we wanted to, let's say if you had a marketing page, like a landing page that was running, that you want to keep up, but you don't want to host your content on that page anymore. So let's say if you had a marketing promotion that expired, last month, and you want the new leads to redirect to a new website, or maybe you created a landing page going from an old domain to a new domain, you can do something like this. So you do redirect 301/landing.html, and then you can have it redirect to whatever you want. So I'm just going to do the devdrawer.com, and now if we go to landing.html, it's going to redirect us to the DevDrawer's website. Okay, so let's go back to our home page. These other redirects, I will not be able to show you what they are, but I kind of went over them previously on the other tutorial, but it's basically www to non-WWW or non-WWW to WWW. So I'm just going to type it out. I can't show you because obviously I'm on a local server that I don't have the WWW for, but it will work on a regular server. Okay, so we're going to do options, and we're going to do plus follow symbolic links. So follow symlinks. So that's not right. It's SYM links. So follow symbolic links, and then we're going to do rewrite engine on. Rewrite engine on, and then we're going to do our rewrite condition. So let's see, rewrite condition. And we just want it to be where if it has the www here, we want it to just remove the www and redirect it back to this next URL we're going to do. So let's do this www.htaccess.local, and then we're going to do nc, and then we're going to do our rewrite rule. So do our rewrite rule, and this is going to be where we basically anything that comes in that meets that condition. So anything that comes in, we want it to redirect to the domain without the www. So htaccess, and then whatever, if it has www.htaccess.local/landing.html, it'll redirect to http htaccess local landing.html. And we want it to be a 301, so we're going to do redirect equals 301, and then nc. Now, if you're not familiar, NC stands for not case sensitive. You'll see that being used a few times while I'm typing this tutorial. So we don't want it, if it has capital letters in here, we don't care. We want it to be not case sensitive, and same thing goes up here. So if they type in all of this in uppercase, it's still going to redirect them to here, because that the condition is that it doesn't care about the case sensitivity of it. Okay, so next we're going to essentially do this exact same thing. So I'm just going to copy this over, and we're going to do from non-WWW to WWW. And it's basically the same thing, so you're going to have one or the other. So I'm just using the same code here, but you wouldn't have that on twice. So for this, we're going to change this up a little bit. We're going to remove the htaccess or the www and just have htaccess.local, and then we're essentially doing the same thing here, where now it's www. And if you have SSL on your server, you can always put in HTTPS here. But right now, obviously, I'm local, so I can't do that. Can't even show it to you. But you can change this URL to match whatever you want it to match. Okay, so let's go down a little bit further into the rabbit hole for htaccess, and we're going to start doing some blacklisting. So blacklisting is a good way to kind of protect your site. If you're doing it manually to protect your site from bots and spam and stuff like that, if you start seeing some reports come through, or you start looking at your server logs and you see someone's trying to hit a authorization page that you don't have, then you can blacklist those kind of people. If you're using something like WordPress, there's plugins out there that'll do it. You can also, there's some services out there that you can incorporate into your htaccess file, which they kind of do the heavy lifting for you. You can also incorporate those services into the HTML files, and again, it would do the heavy lifting, so you wouldn't have to monitor it. But if you are monitoring it yourself, then you can do things like this. So if you have IP addresses that are coming in that you don't want to have, or let's say if you are getting hit hard by a country that is known to spam or hack websites in your country, you can actually blacklist single IP addresses, or you can blacklist IP address blocks, which I'll show you that in just a second. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to deny an IP and then allow everything else that's not that IP. So I'm not going to be able to show you this either, because my server is not visible to the public, and it can't block itself. So it's basically going to show a 500 error if I try to block myself from being able to see the website that we're seeing. So I won't be able to show it to you. But the way that you would do this is you do your order first, and we're going to do allow/deny. And then we are going to, inside of this, we are going to deny from specific IP addresses. So whatever your IP address will be, I'm just going to do the default, so 192.168.0.1. And then in order to do this as a block, you would do 192 192.168. And you can even, come here where you're blocking it from everybody inside of this IP address block. So this would essentially block any IP addresses that start with 192.168. So countries usually have certain IP addresses that they use. If someone's using a VPN, then it may be a lot more difficult to track them. So I'll get into kind of blocking HTTP prefers and user agents and stuff like that in just a second. So if they're using a VPN, it's going to be more difficult because obviously their IP address isn't going to be, visible to where they're actually at, or if you block them, they can just switch the IP address. But this is how you would essentially, block a certain IP address. And then at the end of it, you want to allow from all. So it's going to run these deny rules, and then it's going to run the allow rule. Okay, so wait, is this correct? Order, allow, deny. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Might have to switch it around. I can't remember the exact order. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to comment this out so it doesn't break the server while we're working on it, but you kind of get the idea of what you need to do. Okay, so that's denying from an IP and then allowing from all. This is the opposite of that. So we're going to do allow IP, deny all. Basically the same thing, but different order. So we're gonna order, deny, and allow. And I might have these two switched up. I can't remember the exact order that they're supposed to go in, but I do know that it has to be one or the other. So we're gonna do order, deny, allow. Then we're gonna deny from all, and then finally allow from a certain IP address. So if you wanted to have where this is only available to your internal network. So let's say if you have, I don't know, a website that's being used internally that you want to be able to link out to an external website, but you don't want anybody else to be able to see that website, you can block everybody else from being able to see it, and then allow the IP address that is going to be where they're coming from. So again, you can do it full IP address. You can do it like this. You can do it like this. You can do it like that. So I'm just going to leave it like this so that you can see that. Okay, so again, let's comment these out because they are going to break the server if I allow them on. And now let's do another one where we are going to deny from a domain. So deny from domain and then allow everyone else. Basically the same way. So we're going to do order, allow, and then deny. And then here we're going to do deny from, I don't know, let's say google.com. So anybody that is using google.com as the origination of their IP address. So this way it kind of makes it where it's a little bit easier to block people. So if you know that 192.168.0.1 refers to an IP address on Google's network that's assigned to their domain, then you can block the domain completely from being able to visit your website. So anybody that uses an IP address that's associated with google.com would not be able to see your website. And then finally allow from all so that everybody else that comes in that's not from google.com would be able to see your website. Again, gonna comment these out so that I am not breaking my local server. Okay, so we want to also be able to do some blocking. So that's blacklisting, where you blacklist people from being able to access the site, and basically to give them like an unauthorized or a 500 error or whatever error you have set up for it. And if they hit it based on that criteria, they won't be able to see the site at all. So you can also kind of sort of do the same thing using blocking, and we're going to do the blocking via refer. So let's do block via refer. And then here again we need to do rewrite engine on. If you have this declared at the top just one time, you don't necessarily need to keep redeclaring it every single time you want to use it. I'm just showing you like the whole block together so you can kind of see everything. Okay, so we're going to do a rewrite condition. So we're going to do rewrite condition, and we're going to do percent curly brackets HTTP referrer, and let's say we want to have the referrals that come from google.com. We want them to also be not case sensitive, and then so this is where you would end it at if you just want to block any referrals that are coming from google.com, which is definitely not recommended if you're looking for SEO. But let's say if you had a Amazon Web Services that keeps pinging your website every few seconds, and it's bringing up your estimated traffic that's being used on your website, you can go in there and block the specific domain that AWS is pulling from using htaccess, so it won't really use up all your bandwidth and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you're still going to have some because it's got to hit the htaccess file, but as far as something like that, being able to pull resources from your server, you can block them this way. So we want to have multiple blocks. So this is how you would do it if you want to have one block. I'm going to come in here and we're going to do or, and I'm basically going to copy this, and let's say we want to do the same thing for Facebook. Okay, so now Facebook and Google, any referrals coming from them can't hit the site. Let's do one more, and we're going to do Microsoft. And obviously you don't want to block these services on your website. It's just to show you what it looks like. And then finally, we're going to remove that last or, because we have this one or this one or this one, but we don't have an or that comes after it, so we want it to end after it does the not case sensitive part. And then finally, we want to do our rewrite rule. So rewrite rule, and pretty much anything that comes from these, we just want it to fail. I think that's what that means. F, fail. Sure. It's going to fail. So anything that hits that comes from these, pretty much anywhere on your website, fails immediately. And I can leave those up because they will not break my website. So let's go down a little bit further, and let's say if you don't want to block the referrers, but you want to block the user agents. So if you have a common user agent that you can see in your analytics that is just spamming your site, you can do this. So let's do block via user agent, and we are going to kind of set up the same way we did this one. So let's come over here and let's do rewrite engine on. Again, you don't have to declare this twice. I'm just showing you the whole block. And then we're going to do rewrite condition, and that condition is going to be similar to the above. So we're going to do parenthesis or percent curly bracket HTTP underscore user underscore agent. And of course, these can be spoofed, so it may not be the same way every time, but there is some pretty common bots that you can use as part of this. So what we can do here is we're going to do bot name. Let's see, bot name inside of parentheses, and then again, we don't care about the case sensitivity of it. So this is if you wanted to block one bot, but you can also come in here and do a pipe, not a comma, a pipe, and then do bot name 2, do another pipe, bot name 3. So if there's lists out there that can provide you with all of the bots that you can put inside of this, but this is essentially how you would do it if you just want to block some on your own. So again, we don't care about the case sensitivity of it, and then we're going to do this rewrite rule, which is very similar to what we have up there. Let's do parentheses star, and this is going to be F, and let's do L. So you can, I'm kind of doing these based off of memory. I can't remember exactly what all of that means, what it stands for, but let's see if we can do htaccess F var cmod rewrite variables flags. That's what we're looking for, I think. Yes, so F is forbidden, so we're basically making it where that page is forbidden to these users or people coming from here as well as here. And then let's see, what is the L? Last. So this is the last thing that it does. And actually, I'm thinking about this. I think I need to put this in parentheses as well. Okay. So that should help, I guess. I'll leave this open. Okay, so let's go back over here and go back into the code. So this is, you just add all the bot names that are, making your website slow or bringing up your bandwidth, whatever you need to do. There's also something that if you're in, analytics and you see that someone is trying to, sometimes, hackers will use bots to hit common URL structures. So if you're using WordPress, WP_admin is a common thing. So if you don't change that, you can see that, this is what they try to target to see what they can send their other bots to in order to do brute force attacks. So you might see different requests in these URLs that don't make any sense to you. They're obviously not your pages. They're just a bot that's trying to test the weakness of your server, test your defenses or anything like that. So if you're using WordPress, there is plugins out there that rewrites that WP admin for you, so it changes it to something else. So if someone tries to hit WP admin, it won't work, stuff like that. But if you're doing, your own local site that doesn't use WordPress, you might want to go in there and check for this kind of thing that's fixing to happen. So let's say we're going to do now a block via query string. So if you're looking through your analytics and you see a URL that might look like something, let's say it looks like this. So let's do http htaccess.local, and let's just say that they have crawl or something. But let's do bot crawl so I can kind of show you the URL. So this is just some wonky URL that they're sending over. So we're going to do request, and then let's see, they're running a scan pattern on it. So let's say scan for something. So let's say if you're looking through your analytics and you see a URL that looks like this. So I'm going to copy this over, put it in, open up a new tab. Actually, you know what? Let's not open up a new tab. I'm going to just put it here. It's not doing anything currently because this file obviously doesn't exist on our server. But what you could do is make it where that if certain things exist inside of this query, it breaks it. And I just want to check something here just to make sure. htaccess local. So it is broken. So that's one of the bad things about working with htaccess is that you have the ability to break your website very easily. So let me see what is happening here. So I was looking through the code offline, and I realized that I put spaces in here and a few other places at the top. Can't have spaces, just I guess a default for me. So go back and remove the spacing because the spacing is going to break it. So now I just updated those. Let me check. Make sure there's no more flags that have spaces. Alright, so now if I go back to the browser and refresh, there we go. Okay, so let's continue on. So just by default, I added spaces into it. You don't need to have spaces in yours. So yeah. Let's go down, and we have this URL again, going back to where we were before I stopped the video. We have this URL that keeps hitting your analytics. So it's a spammer or a scammer or a hacker or whatever trying to test the security features of your website. In order to block certain things from happening, so this is what I was trying to do initially, is I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and the page is missing 404, so that's what we want it to do right now. But we also want to make sure that we don't want this 404 to happen anymore. We don't want this to happen at all, so we're going to block these from happening altogether. So again, let's go back over here, and I think I removed this. So let's do block via query. No, we already got that. Okay, let's do it here. So we're going to do rewrite engine on. Again, you don't need to have this on every time. Then we're going to do rewrite condition, and we're going to do the query string now. So just like the HTTP user agent above, we're going to do % curly brackets, then we're going to do query string, and we want that query string to match certain things. So if they have, this word is common to all of the URLs that they're using, we want it to match that. So we're going to do crawl, and let's say they also run a scan every single time. So we want the query string over here to also match scan. And then again, we don't care if it's case sensitive or uppercase or lowercase. We just want it to, once it hits it, we want it to fail. So we're going to do the rewrite rule, and then we're going to do this again, and pretty much the same thing we did above. So remember, no spacing this time. And then we're going to have it fail, and that's going to be the last thing that it does. So now if we refresh, it's going to show them a forbidden error. They don't have the ability to access that page. So let's see, forbidden. Yep, that's what the F is. So it's forbidden. This page doesn't exist, but if you go to the regular site, the page still exists. So that way you can kind of, if you start seeing a recurrence of some of these hacking queries that they're doing, you can go in there and remove their ability to even hit your website based on the queries that they're using. You can also block it via a URI. So if it matches a certain thing inside of the URL, I mean, pretty much this is going to, this up here is going to block the same string. But let's say we want it to come down here and block just the bot crawl part of the URI. So let's do redirect. Let's name it first. Block via request URI. And we want to do a redirect match, and then it's going to be a 403 redirect if it matches bot crawl and slash. So right now, if we go back to that page, obviously it's still not going to work. But let's say we want it to, we didn't have this code. This is still going to be forbidden because now it matches this URI, which is bot crawl. So both of these will protect you, either way from allowing them to hit the site based on that URL parameters that they're being sent over. Okay, so let's go back to the home page. In the previous tutorial for htaccess, I showed you how to manage, kind of create like a simple MVC where you have all your code running through a index.php or index.html file. Right now I'm going to show you how to set up a default directory page, which is kind of what we did last time, but I'm not going to do where everything redirects through this default directory page. Basically what it's going to do is minimize this. So this index.html, we're going to set it up as our default page, but let's say if we wanted to create another folder, and let's just call it home, and then inside of this we don't have index.html, we do home.html. So normally we would have to create an htaccess file, drop it inside of this directory so it has its own htaccess in order to recognize home instead of index.html, because right now if we go to home folder, it's going to show the index directory, and that's not what you want it to do. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show this home.html as the default of the directory page. And then let me just do this. So this is going to be internal home page. Okay, so the way that you do that is it's pretty simple. Basically, it's going to, what we're going to put in is going to make it look for index, but it's also going to look for home. So if it finds index, great, it'll display it. If it looks in this folder and it doesn't find index, then it's going to display the home. So the way we do that is first you want to, you have your directory index, index.html. this is going to be the one that finds the index.html, so that it knows that every directory needs to have an index.html. But in this case, it still doesn't do anything here because it's not finding an index.html. It's displaying the contents of the directory and it's showing home. So the way that you do that is you do index.html and then you add home.html to it. So now when we refresh this, now it's showing that home.html as the index of this directory. And it'll basically do that for every directory that you have. So if you use index.html on every single directory, then you don't need the home at all. You can just, do it the way we just did it, but just have index.html here. But this is if you want to change up how some of your code works, or if you're not able to use index for every single directory, then you can have it where it displays it this way by setting that directory index, our default directory page. Okay, so now let's get into a little bit more. I'm going to create a new page here. So we're going to call this new page is going to be secret.html, and inside of this secret I'm going to do this is a secret. So if we go to /secret.html, you can see the page now. But if you wanted to block that from being visible, so let's say if you wanted to just have it where, I don't know, your htaccess file would actually be a good example of hiding using this code that I'm fixing to give you. So let's do block. This is going to block specific pages, or not pages, but specific files from being visible. And the way that you do that is it's good to have your htaccess file not visible to the public. Most servers handle that themselves, so you don't really have to worry about it. But let's say if you built a homebrew server and you don't have that kind of precaution in place, you would do something like files.htaccess, and then you would have order, allow, deny, and then deny from all. This needs to be on a separate line, and then close out files. So this would essentially block your htaccess file from being visible, used, or anything publicly. So I can't show you that because obviously the htaccess file is not going to work on my local server, but we can come over here and say this secret.html or secret.php, whatever it is, we can block this from being visible and make it forbidden. So let's say sometimes you are running a PHP server and you want to find out information about a page or about your server. So you can do something like info.php, and then inside of here you would just do php info, and then if we run that page, I'm going to do /info.php. What is that again? PHP info. I know that's the format of it. So PHP info without the space or without the underscore. There we go. All right. Wow, 7.2. I need to update that. WAMP. I need to update WAMP. Okay, so right now, let's say we're able to display this, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend leaving these out on a server at all because it does kind of display all of the information about the server that you have set up. But let's say if you did do that, you can come in here and do info.php, and at a server level, it would block it. So whenever you want to go look at it, for whatever reason you kept it alive, you just remove the block off of it, and then it shows it. So I'm just going to keep this as secret HTML. Then I'm going to delete this page. And again, we're blocked with secret. Okay, so that's how you block a specific file. I would use that on your htaccess file if you're doing a homegrown server. If you're using, something like GoDaddy or Bluehost or A2 hosting or any of the bigger, larger hosting websites, most of the time they have your htaccess invisible to the public, but just in case. Okay, so let's go down for something else. So I have a file. Let me see if I can copy this over. So inside of, I have a file for a PDF, just a sample PDF, and I'm just going to copy it over into my folder that I have here. And while I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and copy over some images, because we're going to use those in just a second. Okay, so now I have this sample PDF. So if we come over here and we go to sample PDF, it's going to display this dummy PDF inside of the browser. What I wanted to actually do is download it. So I can force a download using htaccess. So let's do force download of files. Okay, so now the way that you do this is you basically add the octet stream as a type, and then you tell it what type of documents that you want to force this download in. So let's do add type, and we're going to do application / octet stream. And I want any PDFs that they open on the site, instead of actually opening on the site, I want them to download. So now if we refresh this page, you can see here it's trying to download it instead of opening it up. So if we come over here and we do sample.pdf, it will no longer open it, it just downloads it in the browser. You can also do this with other files. So let's say you have no commas, space, text, or docx, or doc files. Any of these files that are hit will download. So that way that you don't have to worry about rendering issues inside of a browser. You can just make it, it's forced to download. Okay, so next, there's another thing. So I got these images now. I'm going to come over to my index.html, and I'm going to add an image here. So let's do image source equals sample.png. All right, so let's refresh this. Now we have this sample image over here. What I want to do is, let's say you have an image that's it's become popular, I guess, and it is currently being reshared everywhere, but instead of downloading the image and saving it, they're actually linking to your image on your server. That can cause bandwidth issues. It seems like you get a lot more traffic that you're not actually getting. So there's a few ways that you can do this to block hotlinking, that's what that's called. So hotlinking files on your server. And this is something that you need to worry about if you have, especially if you have an image server. You want to prevent people from being able to, link back to your server, or not link back to your server, but steal images off of your server. You can't prevent them from downloading them, but you can prevent them from, having a link, an image source reference that goes straight to your website and uses your bandwidth instead of theirs. So we're going to do rewrite engine. So rewrite engine on again. You don't have to have it if you already done it. Then we're going to do a rewrite condition, and we're going to make it where the HTTP refer is basically anything that's not your website. You want to block it. So let's do this. We're going to do HTTP refer, and then exclamation that $. So basically anything that is not your site. Then we're going to do another rewrite condition that's going to say it's not your site or a specific site. Okay, so back to the HTTP refer, and then we want it to be where, let's say, in order for me to show you this, I'm just going to make it where www, let's see, /www, and then my local site that I'm using right now, just so I can show you what it's trying to do. And then basically anything, any page that's on the server, I want it to be able to hit. and disqualify. So don't care what it looks like. And then we're going to do the rewrite rule. And the rewrite rule for this is going to be anything that ends in the following. So let's say we currently have a PNG on that page. So we want it to be PNG, and then we want it to do the fail or forbidden. Now I can't show you, what this is going to do because it's on a local server, but basically what this is going to say is that anything can be blocked. Let's see what I'm trying to say. Images on your site can be blocked from showing on any website, or you can have specific websites. So let's say on google.com or on a website that is currently using your images embedded, you can block them directly by doing a URL here. So that way you're not blocking everybody, but you're blocking people that are abusing the system. And then you can also come over here and put in whatever kind of extension that you want to have blocked. So you can do like do your pipe and do GIF or JPEG or MP3, XML, basically any extension that you want to have, you can put on here and make it where they can't hotlink directly to that file. Also, there's another thing that you can do with the images. So you can do replace hot-linked images with another image, and have seen this done in the past where there's an image that's being hot-linked on a website, and then the website owner goes in there and changes that image that's being hot-linked. It doesn't display, it displays correctly on their website, but on the other website it'll show something that's either something bad for a brand, or maybe it's just saying you don't hotlink these images, so forth and so on, if they want it to be professional. But there's a lot of things you can do with this code that will essentially it can make it very difficult for the person that's using your bandwidth. So in order to do that, I'm going to basically copy over this code, and again I'm going to leave these as they are, but on this part down here I'm going to remove this because I don't want it to disable the images themselves. What I want it to do is we're going to do a rewrite, so a rewrite rule, and we're going to do anything, let's say if it ends in a JPEG, which is this sample.jpg, we could make it be replaced with another image. So in this case, I'm going to replace it with http htaccess.local, which will be your domain, and then we're just going to do bad PNG, and it's going to rewrite it. I think that's what that stands for. I guess I could check over here. What is the R? R, redirect. Okay, so it's redirecting that image. Rewrite, redirect, very similar. So let's come over here, and I doubt it's going to do anything for either one of these images, but we're going to do a sample JPEG and see if it changes it. I doubt it's going to do it because I'm doing it on my local WAMP server, but let's see if it does anything. So what is this trying to display? Sample JPEG, so that image does exist. Is it trying to do it? It might be trying to do it. So JPEG, JPEG, PNG. Hold on, let me get rid of this rule real quick, just to test out this rule, because it should switch it out with another image. There we go. We have our alternate image, so that actually worked. So it's replacing that JPEG with this alternate image, bad PNG. So that part's actually working. And I believe it's working for that as well, because it's actually basically making the image forbidden here. But why is it not working on this? This is another, so JPEG. I don't know why that's not working on there. /png. This is sample PNG. Sample PNG. Okay, well, that's confusing. But anyway, so it kind of shows you what it's doing. Right now, it's eliminating the JPEG here, which is this sample JPEG, and then without this code over here, just making it fail, it actually replaces it with this bad PNG, just like we have, and it actually does what it needs to do. Okay, so that is kind of getting into how to replace hot linked images and stop people from stealing your bandwidth. So next, leading off of that, we're going to do speed optimizations. And this one, I can't show you everything. You're just going to have to download the file, but I will kind of show you how to get started with it. So there's a few things that you're going to do whenever you're doing speed optimizations. And even if you're using WordPress or you're using another system, there's some of the things that you can do that would speed up your website. So first thing you're going to do is your expires by type, and then the next thing we're going to do is cache control. So cache control, and then finally GZip. So GZip is one of the final things that you can do that basically zips up as much of the content as it can. I won't be able to show you the optimizations on here. You just have to kind of trust that it works. But I'll kind of tell you what you need to do in order to get those to work. So let's first go by expires by type. Whenever you're doing anything like this, just because there are some things that will break your site, you want to wrap it in an if statement. So we're going to do if module mod expires .c, so mod expires c. If that module exists, we want it to run the expiration stuff. If it doesn't, then we want it to skip over, because that means your server doesn't have it set up. It's not turned on, or whatever it is that's could be causing your server to be slow. So most servers have if the mod expires on, but if it doesn't, then you don't want to be trying to run code that has it in there. Okay, so inside of this, we're going to add something that enables expiration control, which is going to be expires active. And then we're going to turn that on. Next thing we want to do is CSS and JS expiration, and we're just going to make it 1 week after request. And then you do expires by type. So expires by type, and we're going to do text CSS, and we're going to do now plus 1 week, not non, now. And let's also take this and we're going to copy it down to these. So expires by type, instead of doing text CSS, we're going to do application JavaScript. And we also want to add another one in here for application X JavaScript. So X JavaScript. So that should handle, let me close this. So this should handle your expiration for CSS and JavaScript. So now plus 1 week, which means that it'll expire after a week. So the cache is pretty fresh during their time on your site. Let's also do one for image files. Let's do expiration, and let's say 1 month after request. So there's a few different ones that you can do here. I'm just going to do the top ones, but you can do whatever type that you need. So we're going to do expires by type, and then we're going to do image / GIF, and then now plus 1 month. And then let's do another one that's like this. Instead of doing GIF, we're going to do JPEG. And let's do the other version of JPEG. And then finally, let's do like a PNG and an IGO. let's do SVG as well. So let's do PNG, ICO, and then we're going to do SVG plus XML. So this should cover the majority of our images. You can pretty much do TIFFs and PyPegs and BMP files, you know, stuff like that. You can expire whatever you want to in here as long as it's image related. Well, let's see. Just to show you something else here. So we're expiring the image version of the ICO. There's also a text version of the ICO. So text version of the icon, and then there's an application version of the icon. So that should cover all of our image stuff that we want to do. You can also set up something for fonts. So let's do font files, expiration, and let's do 1 week after request. And with this, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this one, and instead of doing application X JavaScript, we're going to do application X font TTF. So now plus 1 week. That'll take care of our TTF. So we need to do one for open type and WAF. So we got our open type and our WAF files. And then we can also come in here and do let's see. Let's just do font WAF, because it is handled differently depending on how you have it installed. And then finally, if you're using like an icon font, you can do something like image SVG plus XML. Okay, so that'll take care of your fonts. You can also do audio. So I'm not going to list out everything that you can do with it, but there's a lot of stuff you can do. So let's say you want to do audio files, expiration, and we're going to do 1 month after request. And let's say the basic one, we're just going to do MP3. So expires by type audio / MP3, and then now plus 1 month. And then you can also do, you know, your MPEGs, MIDI files, OGs, you know, whatever you want to have in here. I'm just not going to list all of them. Depends on what you use. So last one is going to be movie files. And let's do expiration. Let's do 1 month after request. And expires by type. And it's going to be video. You can do MPEGs, MP4s, and you know, whatever you want. So we're going to do now plus 1 month. Okay, so we have our video MP4. You can do QuickTime, MPEGs, Shockwave if you're still using Shockwave for some reason, any kind of flash stuff. So yeah, so that's how you would kind of make it where it expires by the type of file, and you can set specific time. So let's say if you want it to have, you know, open type expire, you know, 1 month, you can do open type 1 month instead of 1 week. So you can kind of change that up a little bit. All right, so let's get down to cache control. And in order to have cache control work, you need to enable mod headers. Most servers have it, but if it doesn't, you need to enable it. So I'm just going to put in a comment here. So enable mod _ headers. And you can do that via your control panel, or you can, you know, turn it on through your PHP and INI files. But I'm not going to be able to get this part to work locally, just because, you know, I don't have that kind of control with WAMP. My local server I do, but I'm not going to go through the whole process of trying to replicate that on WAMP. But you can just turn it on. Just make sure mod headers are enabled in order for this to work. So we're going to do files match, and pretty much anything that ends in the extension of CSS, JPEG, JPEG, PNG, GIF, JavaScript, ICO, So any of these files, we want them to have a cache. Let's see, let me make sure I got that. So CSS, JPEG, PNG, GIF, JavaScript, ICO, $. Okay. So if the files match this, we want to do a header set cache control, and then we're going to do a max age equals, let's do arbitrary number 259,200, which is what I usually use. I don't know how many minutes this is, or how many hours this is, or how many days this is, but this is what I guess whenever I first found out how to do it, 25,92000 is the number that's always kind of stuck with me. So just, you can do that however you want to do it, and then public. And then we're going to close our files match. Now, if I go to run this locally, it's going to break because I don't have mod headers enabled on my WAMP local site. So that's the way you would do that, and I'm just going to comment them out because I don't want my site to be broken. But it basically just says that you want to have the caching for these files to stay on for a while. I think that's pretty long time frame. For any of these files, you want it to cache it and keep it there. Let's see. Next, we're going to do our GZip. So GZip, like I said, is just kind of like exactly how it sounds. It's essentially in real time zipping up your website in order to make it smaller or compressed. But again, you need to check to see if mod GZip is enabled. And actually, I don't need to comment this out. Let me close that out. If module. I'm going to add this around this. So I'm going to do mod headers instead. I don't know why I didn't think about that whenever I was writing it. So now hopefully that'll prevent, yeah, there we go. Okay, so now this is essentially checking to see if files or the mod headers exist. If it does, then it runs it. So that way it doesn't produce a 500 error for me. Okay, so now I finally have mod GZip. So let's roll with that. So we got our mod gzip.c, which I think mod headers.c as well. This one should be expires.c. Okay, so we have to turn on mod GZip on, and then we're going to have that equal to yes. So we want to turn it on. And then there's a few other things that we're going to do with it. Essentially, it's just going to run down through what we're trying to do with the zipping. So let's do mod gzip dchunk. So dchunk, yes. And then getting longer and longer. So mod gzip and item include. So anything that is a HTML file. So HTML, text, CSS, JavaScript, or PHP, we want it to cache. Or not cache, but we want it to zip. And I'm also going to copy this, or at least this part, because I don't want to have to rewrite it every time. So we're also going to include the handler, and we're going to include our CGI script in there. So basically we're zipping everything we possibly can on the server, and then anytime we have a meme type of text, we want it to basically zip that up as well. And I'm going to copy this now because we're also going to do the same thing for application JavaScript or X JavaScript. So application X JavaScript and then an image meme type. Okay, and then we want to exclude exclude this, not include. We want to exclude the image meme type because we're caching those better here. Next, let's do mod GZip item exclude and RSP header. Again, it's been a long time since I've had to figure out what some of this stuff meant, but I just know that this works most of the time. And I don't want to include the GZip itself. So if we find a rep header, I guess, where the content encoding is GZip, then we don't want it to zip again, because that's the file that it is zipping. It's the file that is being zipped. We don't want it to GZip it whenever it's already encoded. Okay, so we included all of this. And again, shouldn't break the local because we're running it inside of this mod GZip, which we definitely don't have enabled. Now, there could be a potential issue where some servers just don't like the way that is gzipped. So not all servers can handle gzipping without an error. So if your server, if this doesn't work on your server, then you can try something like this that it's using the deflate method. So we're going to do something like this. So I'm just going to copy this over. So if the files match basically everything that's in here, we want it to deflate. So we're going to do set output filter deflate. So this is essentially does kind of the same thing. It's just instead of gzipping it, it's deflating it. So it's just making it smaller. So if this doesn't work, this most likely will work. However, if I go to refresh my site right now, oh good, it didn't break it. I figured that would break it because I don't think I have this set up on my server, but you never know how WAMP is handling things. Okay, so let's do one more thing for the optimization, and we're going to set the header vary to accept encoding. So if you want to compress your site, you need to be sure that the very accept encoding header is available. Failing to do so could cause your site to fail, even if it's served on a CDN, it's behind a firewall or using a proxy. So just make sure that if you are trying to compress your site, use this very accepting encoding, because it's going to help prevent your site from breaking. But just in case, we're going to throw up an if module again. So mod headers .c, and let's go ahead and end that if mod headers if module. And then I'm going to take this, and it's basically going to be the same thing, except I'm not going to use all of these. Instead, we're going to use JavaScript, CSS, XML, GZip, and HTML. Let's also throw a $sign in there so it just picks up everything after. So we're going to remove this deflate as well, and we're going to do header append vary accept encoding. Okay, so I think that's it. So I should be able to refresh the page here. Nothing happens. And obviously I can't show you everything that it does, but if you just follow the code along and you actually push it out to your server, then you have a much better, I guess, visibility of it. So you can see some of the things, how they're working, and this goes into a lot more detail than my previous htaccess. Pretty sure I've been recording for over an hour now, or pretty close to it. But if you like this kind of video, and if you wanted to get more You can refer to the other htaccess video I did a few weeks ago. It was pretty popular. So if you've seen that one, hopefully you're coming to this one from that one. But if not, you can go check that out. And it has some other stuff in there. You know, if you want to run an index.php, kind of like a simple MVC, I think I'll show you how to do that in the video. But if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions about anything, leave me a comment below, and I'll try to answer them as much as I can. If you are watching this video and you are not subscribed to the DevDrawer, definitely do so, because I have a lot of ideas coming up, and I think my next one's going to be on PHP 8 and some of the new functionality that's built into it, because I've been playing around with it. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening. But I think that's going to do it for this video. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and I will talk to you later.